Hey, are you looking for a new podcast? Then look no further than Extremely Awesome Podcast with Matt. He's on Mondays and talks about a wide variety of topics from video games to TV shows and everything in between. Matt is also a lifelong wrestling fan. From one wrestling fan to another, check out Matt from the Extremely Awesome Podcast. Matt is on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. And Matt's social media, schedule, and all his links are on his website. Tell Matt I sent you. He'll greatly appreciate the support. So again, check out the Extremely Awesome Podcast with Matt.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me. WrestleMania! Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
And it's time for your week in review. It is December 3rd, 2023, as we are getting closer and closer to the Royal Rumble. It feels like it's a mile away, 10 miles away, but it'll get here before we know it, and we've got a lot to talk about tonight, as we do every single week here on the WWE Podcast. Now, a lot of you are new to the show, and thank you so much for joining us here, as we hope you'll consider us as a long-term solution for your wrestling needs. You know, there's a lot of wrestling podcasts out there, and I really appreciate you guys taking the opportunity or taking the time out of your day to listen to us. And we've got a lot of shows coming up this week, as Raw emanates tomorrow night from Albany, New York, or tonight as you're listening to this from Albany, New York, of which yours truly will be there. And you may see a sign or two. Just a bit of a heads up. So my sign, obviously, one side says the name of the show. The other side says "Turn Cody heel." Okay, I guarantee I will be the only one in the audience holding that sign. Both of them. Okay, so check that out. I have pretty good seats. I have a feeling you'll be able to see me once or twice, or I may be the super annoying guy that just won't put his sign down. So there's that possibility too. So check that out tomorrow night on Raw. And it seems like there's a strong possibility that neither Punk nor Orton will be there for Monday Night Raw, because Orton just signed to SmackDown. And CM Punk was advertised for next week's SmackDown as CM Punk returns. Now, it's still possible that they meant to SmackDown, and I think that's what they meant, but it also could mean just generally. Now, I hope Punk shows up tomorrow night, but it seems like they're trending no, as the world title match is going to take headlines tomorrow night, and Cody Rhodes and Shinsuke Nakamura, that's going to be front and center. Drew McIntyre, his involvement in the show and all that. So there's a lot that probably could happen that's not going to involve Orton or Punk. So, you know, that's kind of a bit of a bummer if that is going to be the case tomorrow night in Albany. But we will see. It'll still be a fun show, and hope you guys enjoy it as well. So that means I'll have an in-person perspective for you Tuesday, maybe Tuesday morning, because I'll be able to watch the show live. I don't have to Hulu anything. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us once again. You can go ad free at patreon.com/WWE podcast for $1. Gets you in the door. If you go up in tier, you get exclusive shows, and you get access to things that other people and other tiers do not, and including video that I'm going to be getting out probably in the next day or two. Just kind of like a couple minute videos that I'll be starting to put out a little bit more frequently than I have. I'm working on that, and also we're going to be doing exclusive, maybe some more exclusive shows for those of you that are on the higher tiers. But Patreon is a great place to go ad-free. That's the biggest benefit, right? You don't want to deal with the ads. That's a good place to go. All right, so let's get into the week here in WWE, which, I mean, it was a big one. No doubt about it. It was a massive week that saw Orton. It saw Punk cut their promos. And Orton's was a little bit better, I think, in some ways than Punk's was, because Punk's was, I guess, unfairly, I had an expectation of it being being a more lengthy 10-minute kind of explanation of what's been going through his mind, and instead of just CM Punk saying this is home, didn't feel sincere, I have to say. Like when Punk said that this feels like home, I mean, does it though? I mean, really, I mean, home After everything he's said and done, is it really Punk? Or is that just the corporate shills giving you a couple extra zeros on the paycheck to make sure you toe the company line? And I'm not trying to crap on the promo as in terms of, Punk's ability to cut one. It's more just feels like it's a little bit of a betrayal to himself, does it not? There's some of the things he's talking about, and it's just, we'll see. Okay, I enjoyed the promo as a whole. I'm not saying that it wasn't good. It just felt a little bit of a betrayal to himself, and we've got a lot more of a lot more time for Punk to be on the microphone in the coming weeks and months, as we will find out who he will be facing, presumably at the Royal Rumble, unless he's in the Rumble. That's a possibility as well. Now, on the Orton side of things, we got Orton making good on his threats to the Bloodline, saying that he has a whole bag of receipts for the Bloodline for them taking him out and being out 18 months. So he made good on that. What I didn't expect was the other side of this, where both Raw and SmackDown were trying to convince Orton to exclusively sign with that brand. And to that, I would say, well, Randy came in as a free agent. I don't think it was explained to us clearly that he was mandated to choose one. I think he voluntarily chose one. Why would you do that? If Nick Aldis's promise was, and his big sell was, I'll give you the guys that took you out. Well, if I'm a free agent, I don't need your permission to be here, so I could do it myself, right? So like Nick Aldis basically had no leverage. Now on the Raw side of things, you had a little bit more of a logical sell by Adam Pearce, saying that you'll get the winner of the world title match from Monday Night Raw, and Randy Orton gets an automatic world title shot. Like that's a little bit more of a sell that that Randy would be able to maybe capture another world title and add that to his resume. But either way, to me, it made no sense that if Orton wasn't mandated to choose one, why he would choose one at all and just say, thanks, guys, but like I'm enjoying this freedom. I can kind of come and go as I please. I don't need to be beholden to a single brand. So that part of it I didn't really quite get. Now, I don't know if they'll do the same thing with Punk. Perhaps they'll do the same thing with Punk this week. I don't know. Maybe we'll have Nick Aldis show up on Raw and try to hard sell CM Punk to come to SmackDown, and Adam Pearce will try to keep Punk on Raw. Of course, those are just my wishes that happens, but I don't know. So now Orton did at the end of SmackDown get his hands on Jimmy Uso, and as we had the Bloodline attack, meaning Solo and Jimmy attack Randy, and Paul Heyman instructed this, we had Randy Orton get helped by LA Knight, which, I'm very encouraged by his pops. LA Knight still has a monstrous pop. That's very encouraging. I was getting a bit concerned that with all the attention and spotlight shifting away from Knight to Orton and Punk, that things would kind of cool off for LA Knight. And based on the crowd reaction last night, it doesn't seem to be the case. People are still very much on the LA Knight train, and that's a good sign that's what you want to keep doing. If you're a WWE fan going to live events, you want to be as loud as possible for LA Knight and not wane on your enthusiasm for him, because as I've continued to say, WWE is using this as a litmus test for how deep the love for LA Knight is. Is it a flash in the pan? Is it superficial? Is it deep? Is it what is this? So that's what they're doing, and they're vetting the fans here, and they're testing us. Pass the test, everybody. All right? If you want LA Knight to truly stay in the main event and potentially be the one to take the belt off of Roman, we need to keep on just completely losing our minds when LA Knight comes out. So anyway, this was a nice segment for LA Knight coming out, evening the odds after Randy got outnumbered by Solo and Jimmy. And we had Solo and LA Knight fight back up the ramp. That left Jimmy and Orton in the ring. And as you'd imagine, Orton hit a DDT, an apron DDT, and then, of course, the beloved RKO on Jimmy Uso. And then hit an RKO on Nick Aldis. So I don't know what that means. How does Nick Aldis, how does he respond to being RKO'd, to being physically attacked for the first time as a GM? Does he just instill a fine? Does he just instill a warning? Does he ban Randy Orton from the arena? What does this do? So I don't know. And I mean, I don't mind that. It's fun to see every once in a while. It is very Randy Orton-esque to strike, and the crowd loved it. I mean, there's nothing to really hate or love about Nick Aldis. He fits the role very nicely. So I had no issue with that. I thought it was a fun moment, but I don't know what that's going to mean for Orton down the line. It could mean he's banned from the building. He gets a 1-week suspension, as I'd imagine, and that's that. Now, Randy Orton did say that he wants Roman Reigns. He told Paul Heyman to call Roman Reigns. So that leads me to believe it's Orton versus Reigns at the Royal Rumble for the undisputed title. So that's a very strong possibility. In fact, it's highly likely, although it's not official yet. So that means that Randy Orton loses. I mean, I know that it's Randy Orton's first singles match on a PLE back, but there's just no way. Randy Orton, as great as he is, a legend that he is, it's not the right position for Orton. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but like with so many Roman Reigns opponents that have come before him, it just doesn't make sense. Now, it's not to say I don't want it. I continue to stand by that I think Randy Orton would be a fine candidate, and I would want anyone at this point to take the belt off of Roman if it meant that we got a champion consistently on SmackDown. There's nothing left. There is nothing left to be gained by an absentee champion. There's no more logic that you can spew at the fans that says, oh, it's more special when he's here. The numbers of days don't matter to fans anymore. The fans don't care. The only one that cares is WWE management. That's it. So they can make their history and write their Roman Reigns' name above Hulk Hogan's, and they can say that he is the number 3 top champion of all time, blah, blah. Like, that's it. It's for their documentaries. And I understand why, business-wise. I understand. But as a fan, it's frustrating. So I can have both things true at once. I can hate it, but also understand it. So I think we're still in this for the long haul, guys. I think Roman's going to WrestleMania 40 as champion, probably facing against Cody. I'm not considering The Rock until I see otherwise. For me, The Rock is out, and if this doesn't happen this year, I am off of The Rock. I never want to hear about it again. It is just an abomination if that match doesn't happen. Now, we'll get there when we get there. I'm jumping several steps ahead. But as far as this SmackDown went, with Nick Aldis, with the RKO to Jimmy, fun, LA Knight getting the pop that he continues to get, fun and encouraging if you're LA Knight. See, again, I was very concerned that he was, just kind of the backburnered star after making so much noise for several months that the fans would forget him or switch their support elsewhere. But there is a litany of massive baby faces now on the WWE roster. I mean, so many. And sure, some of them could turn heel, and you'll probably have one or two that do. But think about this. You have Seth Rollins at a high right now for his support from fans. You have Cody Rhodes. Fans love him. You have Randy Orton. What more to say? You have CM Punk back. What more can you say? You have LA Knight, who is on an absolute tear and continues to be, and has that very much sought after organic support from the fans, right? So you have that. You have a looming John Cena out there that's probably going to be back in time for the Rumble or just after the Rumble to make a WrestleMania match against whoever. Maybe it is a rematch against Solo. So you have Jey Uso, who's on a breakout push right now. And you did have Drew until he turned heel. You have Sami Zayn, who is still beloved by the fans, although I could do without his constant screaming in every promo he does. Like I said, I think he took the Dolph Ziggler class of promos. And Kevin Owens, on the other side of things, isn't in that top tier. He's, I think, just below, but you can consider him absolutely a top babyface. So things are just, I mean, and crazy good on the babyface side of things, which leads you to believe that the things could balance themselves out with a big heel turn at some point. Now, Drew, again, is still a work in progress with the heel turn, and it will continue to be. But this is it's so much fun. It's just so much fun right now. And I tweeted this out, or X'd it out, whatever you say now on X, which follow me, guys, by the way, at the WWE Podcast on Twitter. I'll just call it Twitter for now. I can't remember a time since the Ruthless Aggression era that the wrestling was this hot and this good and this compelling. It really just, from the star power to the returns, of course, to the match quality. I mean, we're on historic title runs if you care about such things. WWE's crowds have been hotter than ever, especially post-pandemic, and going overseas certainly doesn't hurt. So right now, things just feel so fun, and there's so many fresh matchups. You have a great farm system in NXT, matchups we haven't seen yet. By the way, we have Karrion Kross returning next week, if you saw that little graphic, in the U.S. title tournament. You have Logan Paul as U.S. champion. We'll get to that. And things are just really good, and not all good. I spent a lot of my time complaining about the things that could be better on this show. But I think we are in a very good place as a wrestling fans. There's really not a ton we can complain about, legitimately, other than a massive absentee champion for the last 18 months. So there's that. And of course, you have The Rock, who came back a few months ago and is looming out there for us to pretend that the Roman Reigns Rock match is happening. There's a lot. Austin. I mean, there was actually talk. This came from Fightful. I don't know if you guys saw this. That there are those in WWE that believe Austin and Punk is actually a very strong possibility. That it could happen during Punk's run, however long that is. Maybe it's through next year's WrestleMania, whatever it is. That those people believe that Punk versus Austin is actually a real possibility. And why wouldn't we believe that? Austin came out of retirement already to face Kevin Owens. Why wouldn't we think that? Punk and Austin was something that should have happened in 2013 and didn't. So, to me, things have never been more exciting since the Ruthless Aggression era. And I don't know, maybe you guys feel differently, but this is a great time. So, and to top it all off, we're about to enter WrestleMania season. I mean, can things get much better? And the women's division, I mean, that needs its help, but you have the solid base of Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. We'll get to her. Don't worry. We have Charlotte. We have Io Sky as the women's champion on SmackDown. You have Bayley, who's about to turn and become a babyface and face her former group. No Ronda Rousey, which is always a good thing. Actually, her absence is somehow an addition in my mind. You have on the Raw side, or on the SmackDown side of things, still you have Asuka. You have Kairi Sane returning. Yeah, things are just really fun. Jade Cargill's floating out there. So, all right. Well, let me continue on here with the just kind of the SmackDown here part of things, and then we'll get into Raw a little bit into Raw. Hey, are you looking for a new podcast? Then look no further than Extremely Awesome Podcast with Matt. He's on Mondays and talks about a wide variety of topics, from video games to TV shows and everything in between. Matt is also a lifelong wrestling fan. From one wrestling fan to another, check out Matt from the Extremely Awesome Podcast. Matt is on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. And Matt's social media, schedule, and all his links are on his website. Tell Matt I sent you. He'll greatly appreciate the support. So again, check out the Extremely Awesome Podcast with Matt. So we got kind of the same speech, by the way, opening SmackDown, with Belair coming out and cutting the same promo basically that Cody Rhodes cut about quote unquote his team, which is still ridiculous. It was his team. But just saying everybody was, thank you, and is naming everyone by name, which, I mean, again, cut and paste Cody Rhodes' promo there into Bianca. And one thing about Bianca before I get into the nitty gritty, and I also tweeted this out, and some of you were not happy about it. Some of you agree with me, but I said to some degree that Bianca Belair is arguably the best female athlete WWE has currently on its roster. But how can I take a 34-year-old woman seriously when she's twirling her hair and skipping to the ring like a 12-year-old schoolgirl? And I know some of you didn't like that, compared it to John Cena, if you support John Cena or whoever. There is no one that acts like a child on their way to the ring. I know she has long braided hair. Cool, man. What 34-year-old twirls their hair and skips around? Now, I know it's a wrestling entrance. I'm not saying walking down the street. But you are a legit badass athlete. And you've main evented WrestleMania. And you're skipping down the ring with your hair, twirling it around. I'm sorry, that's childish. It's childish. Now, to me, that doesn't stop her legions of fans. I'm a supporter of Bianca Belair. I generally like her character. Generally. I think it's too soft at times, but her in-ring work is next level. She has the face of a star. She has the look of a star. It's really everything except her entrance, to me. And eventually a heel turn, of course, but one thing at a time. I don't know. Even her music is catchy. I don't know. I'm sure you guys will talk about this on the mailbag or whatever. I heard you talking about Bianca, and I disagree, and that's fine. If you guys like her, then fine. And it's my personal preference. I don't need a 34-year-old woman acting like she's 12, coming down to the ring with a big smile on her face. And the worst part about that is, even when she gets her ass kicked the week before, or something really bad happens to her the week before, it doesn't matter. She's still skipping to the ring. Just oblivious. Just completely oblivious to life. I don't like it. It's such a turn off for me. Anyway, I like everything else except that right now. Okay. Excuse me. So we did get Bianca Belair coming out and playing to the Brooklyn crowd, and Damage Control came out, and Kai spoke, and Kai said that Sky has already beaten Belair twice, and she'll have to go through the rest of Damage Control to get another title shot. Charlotte Flair comes out with Shotzi, and Flair said Belair isn't the only one coming for Sky. She added that she would love to go through all of the Damage Control, and Shotzi said it looked like there was enough of Damage Control to go around. So we got Flair and Shotzi charging the ring, joined Belair in fighting Damage Control, while Kai remained at ringside. No Bayley, by the way. Babyfaces stood tall in this. So I don't know why we're continuing this, I have to say. Now, once the babyfaces definitively beat Damage Control at the PLE, you're thinking, okay, this is done, and Belair is the one who initiates. No, I'm not done. I want to inflict more punishment. Okay. I guess it's also to further Bayley's split. So I just feel like it's going on a little too long now, but I'm still on board for it. So we then got Bobby Lashley versus Butch, and Butch was shown backstage with Lashley earlier in the day, and Lashley dismissed him and said, once you make a name for yourself, you can talk to me. But Bobby Lashley here got the babyface reaction. People just didn't seem to care about Butch. And this ended with Bobby Lashley spearing him and winning in 8 minutes. And there were Bobby chants, very little in the way of support for Butch or Pete Dunne. And it just is, it was a complete reversal of what WWE tried to instill here of crowd reaction. So I don't know if this is a one-off here or not, but I think it's more of a referendum on Butch and his lack of connection with the crowd right now. Okay, so we got, let's see, Cole. Kayla Braxton catching up with Butch backstage and asked him about Ridge Holland walking out on him last week. Butch said he didn't know why Holland walked out and he didn't care. He had to focus on himself and will fight anyone. And then Pretty Deadly, Elton Prince and Kate Wilson, interrupted and mocked Butch for being abandoned and then called his career a dead end, and they ended up scuffling and taunting him for being alone. So perhaps this is trying to bring Sheamus back, maybe. Okay. Santos Escobar's backstage. He was interviewed and asked about his match against Joaquin Wilde, and Escobar took issue with Wilde and Cruz del Toro, for being blinded by their hero worship of Rey Mysterio, which I like this whole narrative. This is a lot of fun. So we got a match here, which was sadly a little quick. Santos versus Joaquin Wilde. A little rushed, but I don't blame them when it was a 4-minute match. And the finish of this was having, Wilde playing to the crowd and performed a somersault into a DDT for a 2 count. Wilde then charged Escobar, who super kicked him. And Escobar told Wilde, this is what happened when you crossed him. And Escobar hit the Phantom Driver and got the 3 count. So, after the match, Escobar threw punches at Wilde, and Dragon Lee made his entrance, and that caused Escobar to duck to ringside. So, this is, a continuation of the really fun Escobar turn. Not a massive step forward, kind of a keep things as they are type of night for Escobar, but I'm really high on his turn. This is fun, and he's continuing to get booed very loudly. All right. Logan Paul came out holding the U.S. title. They say he had a question for everyone who stabbed him in the back and for every hater. And he says, where are you now? And he spoke about how they drive him to work harder. And Paul asked the jealous wrestlers backstage who are mad at him because they've done this their whole life. Well, he's the fastest rising star in WWE. I have to say, at that point, I thought there was a chance Logan Paul, or rather LA Knight, could come out. When he said he's the fastest rising star, I'm like, wait, whoa. I know someone else that says that, and it didn't happen. But so Paul said that he and Aldis created a tournament to determine his next challenger. Paul said that the tournament will start next week and have Santos Escobar, Dragon Lee, Karrion Kross, Bobby Lashley, Grayson Waller, Austin Theory, Kevin Owens, and an NXT superstar. And he said that the tournament winner would have a nightmare trying to take the belt from him. And so basically a number one contendership tournament. So that's fun. I have no issue with that. Kevin Owens. Now, here's the thing. I also don't need a wrestler, helping out with strategy for their match structure. You know what I mean? Like, especially somebody that is as new as Logan Paul. We have Nick Aldis, who's working with Logan Paul, who's the champion, to come up with a tournament. And how do these people get chosen? Anyone that just doesn't have anything massive going on? They're not actually in a program. I know that it's not a big deal, but you always do wonder, like, okay, well, how were these 8 men chosen? Who knows? But Kevin Owens made his entrance and joined Paul inside the ring. Owens said that Paul being in the ring is a nightmare. And he said the first time he saw Paul, he was on the Vine app. That's a throwback. It's, by the way, kids, that's TikTok before TikTok was TikTok. Go look up Vine. If you don't know, I'm sure a lot of you probably listening to me do. Vine was, it's got some classics on there. If you look at some of the compilations on YouTube or TikTok and just search like best of Vine, there are some really good ones. And if you don't know what it was basically it was a video looping app that could only go 6 seconds. So your videos could literally only be 6 seconds. But some of them were brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But that is the first place I saw of Logan Paul too. He said it took him 6 months to figure out that Paul's an unbearable jackass. And Owens said the only junk around here is the crap drink that Paul peddles, which is it's kind of true. Owens said he's in the tournament, so the nightmare is about to end because Paul's days as champion are numbered. And Paul said Owens calls himself a prize fighter. He said he's been in the ring with the greatest boxers in the world and said if they fought, 6 seconds is 5 more than he'd need to KO him. So Owens said, well, this is a different world. Well, actually, Owens, it's really not. If you can punch people with a closed fist, of which in WWE apparently you can, it's not the same. It's not a different world, but I get you. I understand. Pro wrestling versus boxing. Totally get it. Okay. Grayson Waller came out with Austin Theory and sided, of course, with the other heel of Logan Paul. Theory said that once Paul knocks him out, maybe his days of knocking people out would be over. Owens then punched out Theory. Owens and Paul jawed while Owens played his music. And then we got Kevin Owens versus Grayson Waller, which ended in about 11 minutes. And this was a really nice sell job overall by Kevin Owens. It's something that I really appreciate as a fan. There's so little selling these days. It's registering, but there's no selling. Where like, okay, I'll register that someone punched me, but I don't sell how much pain was inflicted. Everyone's just out of breath, but no one's selling any pain. Does that make sense? And Kevin Owens did a great job selling his hand. A great job. He even sold it during the Swanton Bomb that he did. It was just great. That is selling. Great job by Kevin Owens here. And while the finish wasn't super exciting with the Owens getting the roll up on Waller and pinning him, it still was a nice, smooth match and a great sell job by KO. And that I think might be something moving forward into the tournament that they take in is Kevin Owens' hand injury. Well, we will see. Also, no stunner, which was sad. And final side note on this. Logan Paul on commentary was not good, which really is surprising given that he has a podcast and he's used to being in front of a microphone and he's done a zillion interviews, and yet he came up with some things on commentary that were just nonsensical. And I look, I'm not saying it's easy to do, but you'd think that his skills as a podcaster and entertainer would translate very easily into the commentary desk, and it just didn't. So, because they're running off a script, like, off script, not off of a. So, all right. We then got CM Punk's return stats, which saw over 95 million social media views. I mean, that really is insane. And sure, some of those are overlap views, but because they counted probably TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all that. But fine. Still amazing. Still amazing. Absolutely insane. So that's when we got Punk advertised for next week's SmackDown in Providence. And then we got Bianca Belair coming out to take on Kairi Sane. And this match also was about 10 minutes. This ended with Bayley originally not coming out to the ring to side with Kairi. She was told by Damage Control to not go. And she went anyway. She tried to help Kairi Sane, but that did not exactly work, as, it didn't directly cause Kairi Sane to lose the match, but it didn't really help her because Bianca was still able to get the KOD. Okay, so that was still a thing. Now, on let's see, the rest of SmackDown, you guys know already. We had the final segment with Randy Orton and the Bloodline, and Randy Orton laid out everybody, and that's just the way it went as we started the show with. Now on Raw, if you forgot about the Raw side of things, we'll touch on that very briefly on the actual matches that happened, but excuse me, not all the intricate segments. You guys can go listen to the full Raw review that we've done. But we did get, let's see, Jelly Roll was there. Don't forget. Never heard of him in my life until Monday night. But we got a tag team turmoil match for the winner getting a shot at the Undisputed Tag Team titles. And that ended up being the Creed brothers getting that victory and earning a shot at the Undisputed Tag Team titles in a very long but fun match, especially for the Creed brothers, who made a name for themselves big time in that match with all their they are pure wrestlers, pure entertainers, but also more importantly, pure professional wrestlers. I mean, their amateur background is translating very nicely, I think. We got Cody Rhodes in his suit as always, and we got a very tearful throwback to, my dad made the match in 1984. Yeah, sorry, I don't care. But we did get to find out who Nakamura was targeting, and that was Mr. Cody Rhodes, as Cody Rhodes was sprayed in the face by that red mist from Nakamura. And this is going to be a fun program. Cody's going to address Shinsuke on Raw. We did get Nakamura laying out Cody. And the thing is, at the end of the day, you know Cody Rhodes isn't winning this. But it's more to me about the progression of the character of Shinsuke. If you focus on that and think about where he was to where he is now, not being able to speak, very, very limited, again, very limited in promos, to being rebirthed with the Seth Rollins whole program that he did with him and the promos backstage that were brilliant. And he's just duplicating that here with Cody, which is fine. It's a lot of fun. So I would look to not set your expectations on Shinsuke beating Cody, because that's, of course, not going to happen, especially heading into WrestleMania season. But you can set your expectations for the progression of Shinsuke Nakamura's character. That, to me, is more important. And that is, I think, what we're going to get a lot more of as we go forward in time. All right. Let's see. We got Bronson Reed versus Ivar. And Bronson Reed fought Ivar to a double countout in 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Security had to break them up. So that program is going to continue, I'd imagine, on Raw again. We got Nia Jax versus Zoe Stark, and that match was Nia Jax beating Zoe Stark in 9 minutes. We got Gunther and The Miz and a backstage quick kind of interaction, and they just had The Miz challenge Gunther, and Gunther turned him down. And then we got, Rollins coming out and very quickly talked about CM Punk in a very, it wasn't cryptic, but it was a very indirect way, talking about he doesn't want to talk about people that don't care about this place, and called him a hypocrite. So this match is happening, guys. It may happen as soon as the Rumble, but I think they're slating Punk and Rollins for WrestleMania. McIntyre came out, though, and said it's been crazy, and people were talking about the two of them and the things that could have happened, or that happened outside the ring. And McIntyre continues to evolve into a heel in a very strange but very fun way. It's not that one defining moment. It's him thinking that he hasn't changed, but the people have. It's very fun. I like this psychology a lot. And McIntyre ends up headbutting Rollins, if you remember, and splitting his head open because McIntyre hit the championship belt of Rollins. So he ended up splitting his eye. I think it was like above his eyebrow, the hard way. All right. So then we got a lot of backstage stuff with Zayn and McIntyre, which I know, by the way, McIntyre and Zayn have a match on Raw tonight as we are recording this. And then we got Piper Niven and Chelsea Green versus Tegan Nox and Natalya for the women's tag team titles. And this one ended in about 8 minutes and 30 seconds with Chelsea Green and Piper Niven beating Tegan Nox and Natalya. So that's fine. Here's the thing with the women's tag titles that I continue to say. I'll believe that they have come and turned the corner with the women's tag team championships when they actually are consistent with showing them and giving them at least a segment or two on Raw consistently, or on SmackDown, because they can float. All right. So we got, let's see what else. The whole Daddy's Back thing with Orton, by the way, was just classic. Orton and Dominic Mysterio was the main event here, and this ended in 9 minutes and 25 seconds with, of course, the beloved RKO. Now, this is, not something that I want to see all the time happen because Dom is such a great heel. But this is super satisfying seeing Dom get his ass kicked with one of the most beloved moves of all time. In a very smooth match. Randy looked great. Randy looked like he hadn't lost a step. And then we get the big promo from Punk. And again, didn't live up to my expectations, but no one, I mean, that's just my own, and really, who cares? If you enjoyed it and you felt it satisfied your needs after 10 years of not being in WWE, then great. To me, I expected at least that first promo to be a little bit more and longer, but it was what it was, and there was some good stuff in there. He's talking about how hell froze over and said that, you know, I'm home, which again, I don't really buy given everything he said. And he said the voice of the voiceless found a voice, or rather the voiceless had found a voice. And he said everyone welcomed him back with open arms. Almost everybody. I think he alluded to Seth Rollins there, but not speaking to him by name. And he off mic said, I'm back. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. And that's fine. Really, I mean, that philosophy, if anybody takes offense to that or thinks that's shallow, think about your place of employment. Does that statement ring true with you too? I'm going to venture to guess it does. It's just not something that people speak out loud most of the time. But it's true. You think you'd be there if your employer wasn't paying you? If you were just there on a voluntary basis and your goal was to just try to make friends, would any of you be at work? Some of you would. I wouldn't, certainly. It's like my worst nightmare, you know? For me, anyway. I mean, I wouldn't. There's no chance. I don't need friends. I don't need more friends, rather. I just don't. But my point is, when someone says, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money, that applies to a large percentage of the actual working population, generally speaking. So I have no problem with that at all. It's a decent, I think, promo from Punk. And it's going to be interesting, though. Does Punk revert back to trying to tear down the establishment? Because that was what made Punk's Summer of Punk so special, is that he was the anti-establishment. He was going against the man, against the machine, speaking truth to the inner workings of the business in kind of a fourth wall way. But he can't do that here. So I'm interested to see how Punk adapts his character a bit, where he can't just be those pipe bomb shock value promos. And he's just engaged in a regular program with Wrestler X. So something to think about. All right. But again, massive week in WWE. One of the biggest weeks we've ever seen. And I'd really thank you guys all for joining us here on the WWE Podcast Week in Review. There's a lot more to come here. Again, if you want all the ads removed you've heard in this show, go to Patreon, go to Apple Podcasts and click the ad-free button. Get out of here. Get off the ads, right? And also on WWEpodcast.com, there's a way to go ad-free, go VIP on WWEpodcast.com. So thank you, everybody, for joining me here. I feel like this is a shorter show than normal, but maybe it's about average. I'll be back. Oh, boy. I might do a rerun of Current State tomorrow because Anthony DeMarco and I usually do that. But I may, given that I'll be at the live event in Albany tomorrow, I probably will just be doing a rerun of sorts with Anthony and I. And then on Tuesday, I'll have a massive Raw review with in-person perspectives and thoughts and all that kind of thing. And look out for me on Twitter, okay? Because I'll be on there active, tweeting for things I may want to say during the show. You could find me at the WWE Podcast on Twitter. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I hope you enjoy Monday Night Raw tomorrow night. I know I will, and I'll talk to you next time. Hey, are you looking for a new podcast? Then look no further than Extremely Awesome Podcast with Matt. He's on Mondays and talks about a wide variety of topics, from video games to TV shows and everything in between. Matt is also a lifelong wrestling fan. From one wrestling fan to another, check out Matt from the Extremely Awesome Podcast. Matt is on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. And Matt's social media, schedule, and all his links are on his website. Tell Matt I sent you. He'll greatly appreciate the support. So again, check out the Extremely Awesome Podcast with Matt.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.